On a cold November evening in 2011, a horrifying emergency call shattered the quiet of a small town in Mississippi. A mother, exhausted from a long shift at work, had left her two young children alone in their small apartment for what she believed would be just a short time. She had done it before without incident. But this time, something unimaginable happened. When she returned, she found her 15-month-old baby unresponsive, inside the oven. The prime suspect? Her own 7-year-old son. This shocking case would leave both law enforcement and child psychologists stunned, forcing them to ask a terrifying question. Can a child so young truly understand the weight of such an act? The apartment, located in a low-income housing complex, was small and sparsely furnished. The mother, 26-year-old Latoya Simmons, had left just after sunset, heading to the convenience store a few blocks away. She assumed that her eldest child, 7-year-old Jason, would be able to watch his baby brother for the short time she was gone. After all, it was only supposed to be a 10-minute trip. When she returned, she immediately sensed that something was wrong. The air inside the apartment was thick with an acrid smell, a mix of something burning and an unplaceable, sickly scent. Jason stood frozen near the kitchen, his small frame rigid, his hands clenched into fists. He wouldn't look at her. Then she saw the oven. The door was slightly ajar. Her heart pounded as she rushed forward. What she found inside would haunt her forever. Her 15-month-old baby, Noah, was motionless, his tiny body scorched. Latoya screamed, a blood-curdling wail that sent neighbors running. One of them called 911. When emergency responders arrived, they could only confirm the unthinkable. Noah was dead. Detectives were stunned. How could a 7-year-old be responsible for something so gruesome? And why? Jason was taken into custody for questioning, though law enforcement knew they were dealing with an unusual case. Mississippi law did not allow for the prosecution of a child so young, but authorities still needed answers. The boy's interview was chilling. He spoke in a quiet, detached tone, barely meeting the investigator's eyes. "I wanted to play a game," he reportedly said. "I wanted to see what would happen." When asked if he knew his brother would get hurt, Jason hesitated. "I thought he would be okay. I was just playing." But investigators weren't convinced it was just a game. The oven had been turned on. That required more than just curiosity, it required intent. Child psychologists were brought in to evaluate Jason. His history revealed disturbing patterns. Neighbors described him as a quiet but strange child. Some recalled seeing him hurt small animals. Others had seen him lash out in unexpected bursts of anger. His mother, Latoya, admitted that he had struggled with behavioral issues, often throwing violent tantrums when he didn't get his way. Teachers at his school had even suggested that he see a counselor, but with financial struggles and no medical insurance, Latoya had never followed through. Was Jason simply an emotionally troubled child, or was this something more sinister? Some experts suggested that he could exhibit early signs of conduct disorder, a severe behavioral condition linked to sociopathy in adulthood. Others argued that a 7-year-old couldn't possibly comprehend the full impact of his actions. Despite the horror of the crime, Mississippi law was clear. A child as young as Jason could not be criminally charged. Instead, the state placed him into the custody of Child Protective Services. He was sent to a juvenile psychiatric facility for further evaluation. Meanwhile, authorities turned their attention to Latoya. How could a mother leave a 7-year-old alone to watch an infant? Was she negligent? Latoya was arrested and charged with child endangerment and neglect. Prosecutors argued that her actions, while not directly responsible for Noah's death, created the circumstances that led to the tragedy. The case sent shockwaves through the local community. People struggled to comprehend how such a horrific act had happened within their neighborhood. Some sympathized with Latoya, believing she had been doing her best under difficult circumstances. Others blamed her entirely. The media quickly latched onto the story, dubbing Jason the youngest killer. True crime discussions and psychological debates dominated talk shows and news segments. Was this the result of parental negligence? Or was Jason simply born different? Latoya, facing the weight of grief and legal consequences, pleaded guilty to child endangerment. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison but was released after serving 18 months due to overcrowding. As for Jason, his fate remained uncertain. After years in psychiatric care, he was placed in a long-term juvenile rehabilitation program. By the time he turned 18, his records were sealed, and he was released into the world under a new identity. No one knew where he was or what had become of him. The case faded from headlines, but for those who had lived through it, the scars remained. The case of Jason Simmons remains one of the most disturbing true crime stories in recent history. It raises questions that continue to haunt experts. Can a child be truly capable of murder? And if so, what should society do about it? What do you think? Was Jason just an innocent child playing a dangerous game? Or was this an early sign of something far darker? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories that keep you up at night.